Yo, Natsu here. Today I'm going to start with part 2 of What If Deku Had a Miraculous. In the last part, All Might refused to get the miraculous that Deku was offering him. And Deku had accepted to train with All Might to get One for All. And Inko learned about One for All as well. So, the week after All Might and went to Midoriya's house, Deku started training. So, he went to the beach with All Might. The first thing that All Might had him do was to clean the beach without using the powers of the miraculous. Deku, who had trained and was basically using the miraculouses for a while already, was pretty physically strong compared to someone, well, to what he was in the original. Since he was moving around and using his quote-unquote quirk, his body was getting exercise and everything else like that. Also, his body was naturally getting more flexible and stuff like that, because even if there was magic around him, his body was still getting, well, stretch and stuff like that. So, all it took for Deku to clean the beach was about 3 months. So, All Might decided to give him, One for All. He also decided to bring him, All Might wanted Deku to train more before getting One for All, so he brought him to the gym. While there, Deku was proving himself quite strong compared to normal people. Well, normal children, I should say. But it was to the point where, running on a treadmill, he was running faster than normal people. Lifting weights, some of the grown men that were there were basically looking at Deku and were impressed, because that's a kid doing that. Lifting like about the same as them. So, since we know that Deku by the end of the training could move a fridge almost on his own, could move fridges on his own while dragging them, with All Might being on top of them, so Deku was already quite strong, if we count that as well. Which means that at the gym, he was able to do the job, to lift stuff that normal people would be having trouble with. So he was basically doing the same thing as other athletes and people who are going to the gym to work out a lot more than normal people, making him quite impressive for what the others were thinking. Over the next 2 months, that's what he did. So basically, the strength he had by the end of that is around around the sports festival or after it, basically. So before he went to Gran Torino, basically that's about the strength he should have. So that means that with One for All, he should be able to control 5% without hurting himself. I would say he could control probably around 8% already, but all he'll know for now is 5%. So All Might thought that Deku was ready, but before deciding to using it, All Might gave him One for All and asked Deku, told Deku to wait because he was going to call for someone. So he told Deku that it was a precaution. When the person arrived, Deku saw an old woman. All Might waved at her and called her Recovery Girl. Obviously, Deku knew her as the healing hero. All Might asked Deku to throw a punch using One for All. When Deku threw the punch, his arm broke and Deku thought he was going to die from the pain. Recovery Girl Recovery Girl went to heal him. Deku asked what that was, but before... No, Deku was about to ask what that was, but before that he suddenly felt tired. All Might explained to him that he would need to learn to control that power before he goes to UA. If he wasn't able, All Might would not allow him to enter the exam. All Might was lying to Deku to make him train as hard as he could to control One for All. So the next day, Deku came back and saw both All Might and Recovery Girl, but he also saw an old man in a yellow and white hero suit. All Might presented him as Gran Torino, one of the previous users of One for All. He was there to see Deku's main quirk and to help him control One for All better. All Might asked him to use Plague and Sass, and use Opha to see how well he could take it. Deku used Sass and the power of intuition. This power allows the user of the miraculous to turn back time to when it was activated, reversing everything that happened after it. Deku charged a punch at full power and punched. His arm was damaged, but not as bad as the first time. The reason was that the increased strength and endurance that is given to by the miraculous was able to protect him partially from the damage. Before Rentorino could tell him the mistake he made, he activated his ability and went back before. He told All Might that his arm was going to be damaged a lot, but not broken this time. Since All Might knew the power, he was okay with that, but Rentorino asked him what he was talking about. Deku then explains the ability he gains by fusing with Sass. Gran Torino was impressed about the power and asked what the other one does. Deku explained the power of Plague. Both Gran Torino and Recovery Girl thought he was already strong enough. They asked All Might why he chose the kid that can rewind time and destroy almost anything. All Might said that he asked a question to Deku, and Deku answered with something that was unique, and this is why he chose that kid. Gran Torino decided to accept it. So after that, for about 2 months more, so that's going to go to 7, Gran Torino stayed with Deku and explained to him what he was doing wrong. Before Deku actually used it, basically showing what he was going to do, and Gran Torino telling him that he should control it in a different way. So about 2 weeks after, Deku started to understand what Gran Torino was saying and started using only 5%, as well as sending it all around his body. Then the next part that was going to happen was using it as well as the miraculouses. So Deku was using Plague most of the time when training, and so he was, to see if the destruction power would be increased as well, which, like I said to the people that helped me make this what if, no, the magic will not be amplified by One for All. His normal abilities will be increased. The strength he has when in the Miraculous's form will also be increased because of, One for All when it's active. Since it's a strength boost, that means that the boost that is already given because of the miraculouses is boosted even more. So, Deku basically trained for a huge amount of time and found out that when he has a miraculous on, he can use about 12% of One For All. Which is big already for the start of the series, but still. On top of that, he also started training more with the dual transformation, which is when you combine two miraculouses together. Since he already trained to use it normally, like, oh, the two of them together, he knows how to use it. It strained his body a bit, but he got used to it, but now he had to take in count One For All on top of that. Which, when he uses it and then uses One For All on top of it, basically takes a toll on his body. Since yes, it reduces the damage and increases capacity of using One For All to 15%, which is a way less powerful boost, but still good enough from what I have planned. So, Deku basically has a good amount of One For All, and is basically all around a lot better than his original counterparts, even without using One For All or the Miraculouses. So, after this 2 months, which means 7 months in, Gran Torino and Recovery Girls weren't needed that much anymore. Well, Gran Torino could always come back to train with Deku, but Recovery Girls didn't really need to be there since now Deku almost always used Saz's ability right before starting to train to see his limits. So, okay, can I increase it more than usual? Yes, no, blah blah blah. But normally he doesn't really use it for that. He just like, okay, I increase it, I fight with All Might for a bit. If I'm about to be defeated, or even just to learn how to fight more, I rewind it, I do it again, I rewind it, I do it again, I rewind it, I do it again, and basically do it like that, not to train his body, but to learn to fight more, how to move, how to do stuff. Which he remembers it mentally, so he can learn like that. While All Might doesn't actually lose too much power, or at all, since Deku then suddenly... For the outside it just looks like, okay, Deku uses the ability, and okay, yeah, we're done. It's okay. And All Might just asks how many times it would do it, and that's basically it. So, All Might doesn't lose any part of One For All for training Deku, which is pretty good since that makes it about as much as the anime already has. So he won't lose it faster, which is good. So after that, we go, well, for the last 3 months, basically that's what he did with All Might, to increase his way of fighting and his capacity to react to stuff. So, after all of that, we go to the entrance exam. So, for the entrance exam, Deku arrives there with one extra miraculous. Just for if. The one he took was... let me check just to be sure. Yeah, the Choker of the Dragon. Why can't I find its name? The long. Okay, yeah. So Deku brought long as well. Yeah, sorry, I wasn't able to find it anywhere, which was kind of troubling. So yeah. Now Deku decided to bring Long with him simply for the reason that, well, if he uses it, which if he does, he's going to show that he has more, which that's basically what he wanted to do over time. Show one or two more so that he can have more with him that he can use. He's going to use it. Oh, don't worry about that. So, for the written test, Deku did it without using any miraculouses or one for all, so quite easy. He has Plague and Sass out already, but is still hiding Long, just for if. So, everyone just saw a kid with two flying things next to his head. Someone tried to take a picture, but it wasn't appearing in it, because the Kwamis are hidden, are magic, and so technology can't even pick up on them. So, a few people were basically asking what the hell that was. So, after that, they went to the, well, they went to sit down where President Mike was about to explain about the robots. President Mike was explaining everything until Ida raised up and said that Yue must have done an error, as there is one of more robot. There is a fourth robot, and President Mike isn't even talking about it. Then, before President Mike can answer, Ida also turns and says, "And also, what are those?" Pointing to Sass and Plague. He asks Deku what they are, and basically says that he cannot bring pets or whatever they are to UA, well, to the UA entrance exam. President Mike looks at his papers and says the number of Ida, and then looks for Izuku's number and says, this is Izuku Midoriya. His quirk is called... Oh shit, I forgot. I think it was Animal Power or something like that. Basically, President Mike says the name of the quirk and says that those are actually what he uses to use his quirk. They are animals with quirks that he's able to absorb and use to basically use their powers when they're fused. They need to be close to Deku at all time for him to use them, and that basically, if someone were to separate them from him, he wouldn't be able to use his quirk. Ida basically just saw that, oh, I'm making a scene for literally the quirk of someone. Basically, he just sat down, and President Mike then said, but for the first questions, yes, there is a fourth robot, but this one doesn't give any points. It's more of an obstacle. So if you see it, just try to run away. So everyone then leaves to go to the cities. And while they're waiting around, instead of Deku going to Uraraka, since she didn't have to save him, I didn't talk about it since he didn't fall, but Uraraka went to him to basically ask him if it's truly where his quirk comes from. When she does that, Ida starts to go towards him to basically tell her the same thing as he said to Deku in the original. basically saying that she's bothering someone and that if they need to basically concentrate, it would be bad. Which Deku basically gets behind Ida and says that he's fine if someone asks him a question. He's not really troubled right now, since he has that quirk and another quirk. Ida asks what does he mean other quirk, which Deku says that, well, over time using their powers, he became a bit stronger and can use it without them being fused to him. It has a limit and can actually hurt him quite a lot, but he can still do it. So he doesn't mind getting someone to ask question to him. Uraraka saw both the bracelet and the ring and said that those are beautiful. Yeah, sorry about that. That both of them are wonderful equipments. Deku says that, oh yeah, I bought them so that the Kwamis can actually fuse easier with me, which she basically asks what he means. And before Deku can answer, President Mike says he's going to start counting. Sorry about that. Deku basically, when hearing that, basically said, Saz, wait, what was it? Saz Slither. Which made Saz basically enter the bracelet and make Deku have his outfit. He didn't give them names yet. Basically, all he calls himself right now is still Izuku Midoriya. I haven't chosen a name, or if I chose one, I don't remember it. So, yeah. But, yeah. Deku basically transformed, which everyone just saw this kid get his hero suit by fusing with the flying snake. And basically, just said, is everyone ready? Since I think it's 10 minutes, so he has time anyway in there. So Deku basically just says that it's going to be fun. And then just green lightning starts going off around him, with him thinking 1 for all 5%. Not going to the max out of the bat. Everyone was just seeing that and was like, whoa, that's amazing. And then President Mike finished counting and said, go! The door opened, and Deku was just out of there. Like, he just jumped using 1 for all and said to Uraka and Ida who were talking with him, this is my 2 quirks together. And then just landed on the ground and bolted towards the robots. And basically just started to break them. For him, it was quite easy. So everyone started running and going for the robots. Deku automatically noticing that, oh wait, if I destroy them all, nobody else will get points. So I'm only going to go for the 3-pointers. Which he did for a while, basically breaking almost 50 robots by himself before thinking of that. And then breaking almost 40 more on top of that are just 3-pointers before 5 minutes were even up. Deku then realized that he hadn't activated the ability, and if something happens, he should probably help. So he grabbed the bracelet and said, rewind, I think it is. So The moment Deku did that, everyone just saw him grab the bracelet and basically didn't really hear him say it. Then Deku started running. But this time, instead of going after robots, he decided to just raise up and look at everything and everyone. So, after a bit, he started to see people that were getting hurt, people that were having problems, and other stuff like that. Um, After basically fighting for a little while against other robots, Uraka was basically just getting points after points until she realized that, wait, Izuku's not in the fight anymore. So she looked around and saw Deku on one of the roof. Suddenly, Deku just realized that, wait, it's a hero school, right? Maybe I can get more points. And then he decided to turn back time, while Ochako was about to talk to him, erasing her memory of this, which Deku didn't even realize she was going to talk to him, so that. And then basically just started going around, helping people, saving everyone, and gaining a few points. Basically, it was as if he was arriving before the robots were able to hurt someone. As if he knew. The power intuition is very powerful for that reason. So, yeah, good for him. I would talk about his weapon, but it's literally a liar, so not really a lot he can do with that compared to in his cat form, which has the stick. So yeah, basically he was using it to help people until suddenly, sorry about that, the ground started to shake 1 minute before the end, which was also 30 seconds after the last time Deku rewinded, so that means Deku didn't know about what was going to happen there. What happened was first the rubble falling on Ochako, the Zero Point showing up, everyone starting to run away, and Deku automatically understood that he chose the wrong time to use his power. Then sorry about that. Deku basically started to run. He then realized that there's not going to be enough time for him to get to Uraraka, take the rubble off of her, and then stop the Zero Porter. If he takes out Plague, he can break the Zero Porter pretty easily. But the problem then is Ochako. So he decided to pop out the dragon. Since it's or he takes the rubble off of Ochako and takes her away, or he can break the Zero Pointer. Because he wanted to at least help her and also destroy the Zero Pointer, he didn't really have any other choice than to leave. Which by leave, I mean he took off Sass, telling him to rest basically, well, close to him. Then take off the choker and said, Plague, Long, Unify. which people just, well, Ochako and Ida, which Ida was running past Deku at the same time. Ida just saw a little red and black creature just come out of Izuku's pocket. Before he did that, and Plague entering the ring, and the other one, the choker on Deku's neck, which all he understood from that was that he had another one that was hidden, which was right. And automatically, Deku used perfection, I think it was water, to turn into water and basically move a lot faster to get to Ochako and take the rubble off of her. He then gave, I think it's an egg, to Saz, and basically just decided, not giving it to her, but just saying to Saz to stay close to her. So that if anything happened, he knows that Saz can use also intuition. Turn back time. Though for Saz it's going to be a huge amount more powerful, which is why Deku hope he doesn't have to use it. So Saz basically just stays there while Deku runs ahead towards the giant robots and basically just said, Plague? No, he says, it's Cataclysm. Basically jumps and just puts his hand on the robot, breaking the hell out of it. Everyone just sees the robot starting to turn black and suddenly just break apart. Everyone seeing that, even in the conference room where they were looking at the students, everyone was just like, what the hell did he just do? He fell down on the floor because he was using one throw at 15% to basically boost himself enough to get there, as well as break the hell out of the robots by using Cataclysm, on top of using Perfection and having just used the ability of Sass. So he was quite out of breath. Deku fell on the ground, untransforming not long after, not because he was out of time, but simply because he was unconscious. Not long after that, Recovery Girl arrived, helped Ochako, which she went to see Deku if he was okay, Saz following her and going back to Deku. Recovery Girl got to Deku, basically looked at him and said, "Ah, he's fine, just exhausted. This kid never knows when to stop." With Ida and Ochako asking, "You know him?" And then Recovery Girl saying, "For a favor, I healed him a few times. His power broke him. Well, hurted him." And then just going off, just laughing a bit, asking Ida to at least bring Deku back to school, since it might take a while for him to wake up. So Ida at least brought him there, with the help of Ochako taking the weight off of him. Back in school, the teachers were basically talking about this kid who had already had hero costumes, 2 that they know of, and that basically destroyed the robot just by touching it, as well as seemed to know why everything was happening and stopping people from being injured. Except Rocka, for some reason, when the boulders the rubble fell on her. Which, if Deku had been more intelligent, he could have turned back time once more, but all he saw was the challenge in front of him, and just took Sass off. Which was the bad move. he still was able to save Uraka, but he could have just turned back time and did it again, while telling her not to go too far. But still, so when Deku woke up, it was a few minutes later, well, about 30 or 40 minutes later, with Nezu basically being in the room to ask Deku what his quirk was exactly, because that was way too weird. With Bakugo and Ochako being there as well. Basically Ochako because she wanted to say thank you, Bakugo because, well, they're friends now, and he kind of wants to take him back because, if Deku can't walk properly, he will need someone to help him go back to his house. Ida didn't stay because, well, it's Ida. But yeah, so once Deku woke up, Nezu asked him if he was alright, which he said yes. And then Bakugo, before anyone else could say anything, just said, "You found a new one and you didn't even told me?" Deku basically just not realizing yet what he means and asking, "What do you mean?" And then pointing to Long, the old dragon talking with the other two, and basically screamed, "That one! Where did you get a new one?" I was asking myself whether you had a choker, but still. You could have told me about it. Which Deku just said, sorry. I found that one the other day and I kind of just didn't think about it. And then Bakugo said, "Okay, but why were you hiding it?" Which Deku just said, "Well, I knew you knew about two of them. If I had a third one, I don't think you would have been able to concentrate right during the exam." Which Bakugo basically shut himself a bit there. Simply because, shit, he's right, I would have only wanted to know where he got it from. Then Nezu asked Deku, "So, your quirk, how does it work exactly, and why do they enter those items?" Sorry, my throat is really exhausted right now. Since it's been a while that I've talked for almost an entire hour straight. So yeah, I'm kind of not used to it anymore. But yeah, so Nezu asked that, and Deku explained that his quirk allows him to fuse with certain animals that have quirks. Nezu then said, "Would you be able to fuse with me?" Which Deku said, "No, I don't think so." Then he pointed out Saz, Plague, and Long and said that all of the animals he can fuse with look basically like that. They look kind of like spirits and they can't even appear on cameras and stuff like that. Which Nezu said, "Yeah, we noticed that while we were observing you. You seemed to be talking with someone, and we later saw it when you came in, that those three were following you. So we basically understood that part. So why the items now?" Which Deku basically lies again, and explains that when he just fuses with them without items, the fusion is basically very unstable and can even break. The items, he basically places them on him, and when he fuses with the Kwamis, they enter the item, and it's able to spread the power more evenly without him being overwhelmed. Then he just says, also, they can use their own powers as well. They're not strong, but the power they can use is... The power I use when I'm fused with them is a watered down version. I can only turn back time 5 minutes right now with Sass, but I think if he was to do it, he could go back anywhere in his own lifespan. which Nezu was a bit intrigued. Then he pointed out Plague and said, when I use his power, I can destroy one object. For now. I think later I'll get more, but if I train, I hope. But for now, I can only break one, and it's not that big. I once tried it on a street, which the moment he said that, Nezu was like, what? Which Deku said, let me explain. He pointed Sass and said, I've used intuition, which is the ability the quirk Sass has. It allows me to turn back time 5 minutes. I used Unify with Sass and Plague to allow me to use both of their powers at once. I activated Sass' ability and then just used Plague's ability, and I saw that I could destroy an entire street. After that, I turned back time to before I did that, so that I wouldn't have destroyed anything. Nezu asked him if his ability could kill humans, or living beings, which Deku said, yes, which is why I really don't want to use it on them. Then he said that he wasn't sure for the ability of Long, the dragon, which they just said dragon, which Long basically presented himself and said that his power allows him to transform and control water, fire, and lightning. And basically, they just said, okay, so that's why you call yourself a dragon? Which he says, well, yes. Basically think a lizard with lightning and firepower. What would you think of that? Which Ochako just said, a dragon. Which is basically why. Instead of saying, yeah, I'm a real dragon. So, basically that. Then Nezu said, so, that's all you can do with your ability? Which Deku then says, no. Over time, I basically gained the ability to use strengthening on myself. Augmenting my strength, defense, speed, and whatnot, without having them fuse with me, but it's hard to control and it can actually hurt my body if I go too far. I can also use it while they're still fused with me, to augment my power even more. Though the ability to turn back time, and destroy everything doesn't actually get improved. Only my physical abilities. Which Nezu basically says that this is interesting. His quirk is pretty powerful. Which Deku says thank you. Nezu then said, I'll tell you right now. You gained enough points to pass. And you're in first place. We didn't count the points yet fully, but you're going to have it a lot. So you can go back home now. I hope to see you at school soon. And basically leaves. Ochako then started saying how she was happy that Deku saved her, saying thank you before leaving herself, and then Bakugo saying, well, now we're going to leave ourselves. And on the way, I want you to explain where you got that last one. Basically forcing they could tell him, so yeah. I'm going to end it here. In the next part, I'm going to say the amount of points Deku had, because I literally didn't read it in that script, so I guess I wrote it in the next one. And also the entrance ceremony, as well as Aizawa's test. Hope you liked it, leave a like if you did. If you have any questions, comment, or whatever, leave them in the comment section. I'm going to leave us the link to my Discord in the description. Hope you liked it. Natsu, out.